We see there is a sense of calm right behind you. There's a bit of chaos off to the other side, and maybe to the other side a little bit more chaos. I can't really get a feel for it. Maybe you can set the scene for us.
All right, here we go, guys. Here we go. Give me a second.
Officers and so forth.
It may be a sense of calm right behind me, but don't let the shot be misleading, because right now there's barricades that are preventing people from going into the street where these officers are and getting closer to where the campus is. Now, I'm losing track of what time it is, but about an hour or so ago, there were hundreds of protesters that were just outside of the campus gates on the other side of the street here, and at some point, dozens of officers in the riot gear came through, started moving the barricades, and that's when we started to see, more clashes break out between protesters and police here. It didn't seem to get too violent or anything from what we saw, but we did see the police take about a handful of people into custody here as they were trying to clear them out here. Now, at this point, most people that I'm seeing are abiding by the barricades that are here, that are staying staying on the sidewalk and abiding by the barricades that they've set up. But hours ago, police actually shut down traffic here in Amsterdam for cars. So there haven't been cars driving through here, just been people in the street, and now they are, congregating on the sidewalk behind the barricades here, listening to the police orders, but I don't hear them right now chanting "Shame on you" at the police.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at that vehicle, if you will. It's there in the center of the shot. There's a guy standing in the way, but it's a big, black, almost like a fire truck meets a police emergency services unit truck, and it's got this cherry picker looking sort of
that's what
on
it
the
is.
back of it. I don't know if you can see it pointing at the window.
All right, guys, so there's a lot going on, all right? There's a whole lot, bogus. But there's this huge, I feel like for a couple of days, I'm going to have to do a little research while I let the audio play, but I keep hearing about these Columbia protests in New York, and I guess tonight, I don't know, the people have barricaded themselves inside, and the cops, I guess at some point now, they feel they have to do something, so they brought this device, this thing that got like an extension arm, and all the cops went inside the window, started climbing inside. And earlier today, I saw one of the protesters, they felt like they should be provided with food and snacks while they're protesting, that I guess that the school should do it. And, some people kind of weren't having that. They were like, why do we have to supply your protest? You should bring your own supplies. But, the kids these days, spoiled and shit. So, and then on the second page, we have this crazy situation when there was a chase. 4 hoodlums in the car, driving sporadically, almost hit pedestrians I'm talking multiple times. It was so crazy. At some point, they sideswipe a vehicle. The car flies out of control, swipes a pole, lands right in front of this residential area that's right next to this liquor store, that's right next to this school. And then chaos ensues. Everybody starts running. The car doors open. There's this clown show. All 4 people start scrambling and shit, running through the alleyway and stuff. The cops had to lock up oh wait, there's a dog. There's a dog right there. The cops had to lock up the area. 2 suspects have been caught. 2 others on the loose. They're shooting suspects, and it's right by an elementary school. And it looks like they still haven't caught them. So there's a whole lot of shit. The year of the crazy going on. Let me unmute this. Look, we've got Men in Black here too. What's going on over here?
That they brought and drove over to
who's that? The agitators?
And so we saw at least 4 or 5 packs of officers walking onto campus, and right now,
let me pull that out.
Give us 1 second here, guys. They're moving us around.
The same people. Everybody just over.
And so what we saw were packs of officers coming onto 114th and going onto campus, and in the meantime, they have the Heru team with the drones watching over the campus. Their officers manning the streets, telling students to shelter in place. So there are officers at the front of each building ensuring that these students are not coming out. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, but there are people chanting from their windows and from the front of the buildings, "Shame on you," to the officers. But again, right now on 114th, I must say it is pretty calm. They are bringing people off into the buses now. At least 5 buses have been parked on 114th as they start bringing the people out. And the NYPD has been carrying the press just one step at a time, closer and closer to where we are right now. And I think this is the closest that we'll get, where they're actually bringing protesters out in handcuffs and bringing them over to the buses. Maurice?
Alicia, it looks like the strategy, a smart one in any operation such as this, is to overwhelm with numbers, with force. And when you said there were packs of officers moving in different directions to go after people on the campus to take them out in cuffs, what kind of numbers would you say that looked like? Like how many officers at a time and how many people did they seem to take out, best you could tell?
Yeah, absolutely. Hundreds of officers. I want to say the first pack was at least maybe 200, and then they had a second pack and a third pack. But by the fourth, there weren't as many. We're hearing protesters on the other side. I think that's Amsterdam. They're getting louder and louder. But right now, they actually slowed down in taking people from inside. The first bus is leaving right now. We can see that first NYPD
chopper's leaving. So
leaving with people inside. Some of them were shouting, trying to shout through the windows, "Free Palestine!" But as of right now,
to the walls.
I would say they have things under control here, but there are lots of officers still manning the streets and making sure that the students who are inside are sheltering in place. Maurice?
Yeah, a lot of numbers when you look at officers right there, Alicia. One more thing, I don't think you're going to be able to fully answer this, but this is important. The mayor and the police commissioner talked about outside agitators, professional protesters, who they really see as the issue, the main problem here.
And that's so wild to me. Professional protesters. So I guess these people are paid? And what is their job? Like, who signs up for a job like that? Professional protest. That's some wild shit to me. Protesters. And when I say agitators, are they just there to like start shit, get things like amp up stuff? Mayor Adams warns to walk away now. I'm surprised he's getting all tough now. Still, what happened with these people? I think they should have just let that Columbia University crumble. Let that shit crumble. Was that the school? Because I heard somebody saying earlier too. Was that the school that was like, we want them here, it's okay? Or was that a different school? Somebody had mentioned that. Columbia University threatens to expel. Oh no, they're throwing down. Columbia University threatens to expel students. Did I read that right? The headline said that it changed. Where did that go? The title said that and I clicked and it changed. I guess they fixed the title. What the hell? Clickbait me.
Come back to you and Ali in just a little bit, but right now we're going to go to Richard Esposito, who can give us some analysis and
be a protester,
what we're looking at here. Richard, I hope you're able to see the same pictures we are. What do you make of what you've seen so far? Police moving in with what seems to be overwhelming force.
I think Maurice, what you've seen, first the officers entering the building on an upper floor. You'll notice that they're a unit all clad in tan pants. You don't see riot gear, just helmets. You don't see nightsticks. What you see is an overwhelming number of officers. You've already, reporters have noted the drone coverage overhead, and you can be sure they have a good schematic of inside the building, and they have good video, so they know who they want to arrest, and they know who they prefer not to arrest if possible. This is not like, I don't know if you recall the Republican convention in New York where I think 1,200 or more, 1,800 people were arrested protesting.
Thank you. Ronan says that was Berkeley and SF Cali. That makes sense. So the protesters could stay and, they have a designated area. That's interesting. Okay.
Is use overwhelming force in terms of numbers, but not overwhelming force in terms of zip ties, in terms of any of the tools you might see in other cities, like in Tampa, where police are responding with looks like tear gas and zip ties. You're not seeing any of that, and you're seeing not that many people being taken off campus. Now, the question is, outside agitators is always a tricky phrase. Certainly, it means non-students. Certainly, they've identified who they say are professional agitators. And in the past, there have certainly been people connected to, on the campus, not today, but in the past week, people on the campus who are connected to known alleged terrorists, according to intelligence officers.
You know, Richard, I'm wondering what you make of that vehicle right there. We're getting some reporting from our team here. The ESU, Emergency Services Unit vehicle, is called the Lenco Bear, a ballistic engineered armored rescue vehicle with MARS, a mobile adjustable ramp system. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we saw this vehicle. It's right there in the middle of your screen, right up against Hamilton Hall, where the officers entered that second floor window. We saw that vehicle come in and really...
I mean, where's the guy reporting from? All that screaming and all that. What is it, like a sweatshop? What's going on over there?
This vehicle to operate from and then go about their business. Have you seen that before?
I have seen it before in New York, in Los Angeles. It's a very effective tool. You see that it could pull right up to the building, no limited risk. It's a heavy vehicle. You see that it has the ability to raise a ladder. It has other tools that can be used with it as well. In this case, they're not using it in a forceful way. They're using it as a deployment tool. And forgive me for not having the technical terms in front of it, of what the vehicle's capabilities are.
But it is a very impressive vehicle.
He's at the bar.
Imagine this, tank, right? It was a real.
Imagine this dude at the bar reporting, like having a drink and shit. Like, all right, you ready to tap in? We need you.
They're going about this.
All these people like out here for hours and days.
Wearing helmets, not riot gear, as some of us may mistakenly think, but helmets only. That's to protect themselves and to be careful with students, right? Young people.
Thank you, beautiful message.
That's correct. They are going in a way where they have a huge number, but you can see that they're going in with protective gear on, not riot gear. You don't see those big shields. You don't see batons. You don't see full face coverings. You see that on some of the officers standing by outside in case they need to do that. But right now, they're going in sheer numbers is the best tool in this kind of action, and that's what the police are using. They're using numbers. And I think you'll find the number arrested will not be that large. Remember, it's actually not a huge number of protesters in that building to begin with.
And what do you make of these protesters? We're talking about these so-called outside agitators, professional protesters, as the mayor and the police commissioner called them. You've seen them in other situations, such as what? Where have you seen them?
So let me call them a violent fringe for the moment, without who's outsiders, who's not. But you've seen them in the George Floyd protests. You've seen them at Occupy Wall Street. You've seen them at any number of events. And sometimes they almost appear to be hijacking someone else's cause, wrapping themselves in a cause that isn't quite theirs, because their cause is disruption. In a sense, some of them are anarchists.
Yeah, what about that? I mean, what's the motivation? Just to raise hell, basically?
Yes, to raise hell in the sense of causing disorder, showing authorities being heavy-handed, but it doesn't help the protest. If you're someone who's there for pro-Palestinian reasons, you're making your point with banners, with flags, with voices, all things that the university may not like, but they'll tolerate. If you're there encouraging people to light flares in the faces of cops, block traffic, break windows, that's a different thing altogether. And
I guess that happened too during the Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, when all those riots were happening, protests and riots, really. But they did major damage, like fucking burning. It was just crazy. But some people argue that there was agitators there. And so in this situation, I guess the opposing force hires them, I guess? Or is it the same force, but just people that are more radical and want to turn things up because they're not satisfied with this type of protest? I haven't really seen like violence I don't think, right? I think it's been, I have to check out. The last couple of days, all I've been hearing about these protests. I'm like, wow, they're really doing it nonstop. I'm curious how many people were arrested, how many people were injured. It says here, this was 2 hours ago, attempts to shut down, disrupt campus operations will not be tolerated. University of Texas says they're not taking it. They're not tolerating it. 79 people were arrested at the University of Austin, or Texas Austin. All right. Hundreds of officers from NYPD Strategic Response Group have arrived outside of Columbia University.
This, I believe, guys, tell me which street this is. I can't tell. Is that Amsterdam or Broadway? I think it's Amsterdam.
This is a pretty big number. It says here, at least half of the demonstrators inside Columbia are not affiliated with the school, law enforcement says. There was a clip that I saw the other day that there was this chick and they were like interviewing her and they're like, so like, why are you here? Like, why are you protesting? And she goes, so I'm paraphrasing. I guess Palestine? I'm not really sure. Like, she starts asking her friend and she's like, oh, well, like, this school kind of needed help. And so our school just joined. So she didn't even know why she was there. She's just there. But, maybe this is just other people around the area that wanted to join as well. And half of the people are not affiliated with the school. And there was people camping. I mean, I've seen pictures with people having tents and, really pushing their cause.
Since they moved in there and retook Hamilton Hall and reestablished order, as you put it, on campus.
Yeah, it's like with tailors, measure twice, cut once, right? The operation is all in the planning.
Yes. Okay. Looks like the plan has been executed and pulled off rather well. Richard, thank you so much. I think we're going to move on now to CBS 2's Naveen Dhaliwal. Naveen, where are you and what's your vantage point right now? What do you see?
Let's see if we got any other feeds out
West
here.
113th and Broadway, and there have been a group of protesters here for several hours now. You can see them there chanting. They've been holding their signs. There have been barricades here been placed, and there is no vehicle traffic for, I'd say, about 3 blocks into this area, but there is foot traffic, as you can see. Now, as the NYPD vehicles move into the zone past West 113th, these demonstrators really surround these vehicles and are trying to get past the barricades. It just happened in the last 2-3 minutes, but police are ready. They have their gear. They have those helmets on, the batons ready, and they are well aware of what's happening just a few blocks away here at Columbia as those arrests, as the NYPD converges on to Hamilton Hall. You can see them. They have been ready. The barricades have been in place, but so far, no major issues at this corner. There seems to be order for the most part. At one point, the protesters sat on the ground up against the barricades, chanting, taunting the officers. But it seems like so far this corner is order for the most part. But we are keeping a close eye, Maurice, and we will bring you the very latest from here. Back to you.
Okay, good work there, Naveen Dhaliwal. Thank you so much. At 113 and Broadway, this image here, I believe this is 114 and Broadway. What you can see in both of these pictures is that there appears to be police in a state of calm. There is no agitation going on. It appears they've gone in and accomplished their mission.
Live. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, this is live. And flooded it with a lot of officers with a large vehicle, and they seem to have retaken Hamilton Hall. There have been arrests made.
I'll fix the title.
At the moment, it appears.
If you guys could hit the like button, I'd appreciate that. I'm actually kind of working and looking at some other feeds to see if they have any different angles.
A key distinction being made there by an NYPD official clarifying to the media that no tear gas was used. He then went on to describe what is known as a flashbang, a very loud sound with the flare that causes a distraction as law enforcement usually tries to disperse crowds. All right, so now we finally see some of these individuals who are in handcuffs, in the zip tie handcuffs, so we apologize there. All right, let's go out to yet another vantage point we have of that same NYPD official speaking to the media yet again. I'm not entirely sure if that's on delay or not. It was on delay. It was the same official. Okay, So, interesting distinction. It seemed like the NYPD possibly might have been preempting some of the descriptions by the student protesters. Maybe that is why they got out there on the record very soon saying no tear gas was used. We did see tear gas being used today on the campus of the University of South Florida. That is not this campus. This is Columbia University. He said flashbangs were used. They produce a very loud sound with a flash in order to disperse a crowd and distract the crowd. And he said those were used. Tear gas was not used.
Okay.
So,
according to this one person on Twitter, it says breaking: NYPD declares protests at Columbia University a riot. I don't know if that's true, but somebody said that. Anyway, check out this vehicle. Really dope looking vehicle. This is the vehicle that carried the police officers right up to the window. I don't even know what they call this. It was pretty cool. Emergency service. Okay.
And it's not just Columbia. This is video just into our newsroom of CCNY in Harlem, where police are moving in with barricades.
Oh, they burning shit.
And we've got a live look at Columbia right now, where the NYPD operation is well underway.
All right, we have Fox 5 live team coverage tonight. Linda Schmidt and Jessica Formoso, both live in
Morningside
Morningside Heights, just outside Columbia. Teresa Priolo is at CCNY, where protesters are currently clashing with police. Let's start, though, with Linda, who is on the Hamilton Hall side, where protesters have been holed up tonight. Linda.
That's right. Good evening, first of all, to both of you. And there are literally hundreds of police officers out here, most of them in riot gear. Now, about 9:13, and I'm being very specific here, I know, 9:13, we received an email from the NYPD saying, quote, the operation at Columbia has commenced. And that's when we saw police in riot gear move in here. Go ahead and take a look at this video here. This is a major piece of equipment that is used by the NYPD's ESU. And what this truck does is it allows them to get up next to a building and be able to access a building above the first floor. And that's what they did here. They all of the officers moving up the ramp after it was lowered next to the window, and then they broke through the window to get into Hamilton Hall. What they are doing here is they are retaking Hamilton Hall from the protesters who violently broke into Hamilton Hall overnight. They had used hammers to break glass doors in order to gain access to Hamilton Hall.
You need help. Take a hand.
And once they are inside there, they are moving through Hamilton Hall right now. They are searching for the protesters, most of whom both the mayor and the police commissioner say are outside professional agitators who have come in and who have hijacked what were supposed to be peaceful protests here on the university. And they believe that most of the people, the students here, that they were manipulated by these professional agitators. They are inside Hamilton Hall right now. They will be making arrests. At some point, they will be coming out.
I guess if that's true, it is very easy to manipulate people, and they'll just tag along. You see one or two people, and they'll join right in. I wonder how this. They already said they use flashbangs, and I guess these kids, I don't know how old they are. Probably, I guess they're older, maybe 20s. I don't know, or teens. I don't know. They said they barricaded themselves supposedly, and earlier today, I'm trying to find a clip. There was somebody complaining, like they did an interview, and she was like that, you guys should provide us with food while we protest. Oh, here it is. You guys should provide us with food and resources while we protest. And I thought that was interesting, but somebody told me, like, hey, Mel, you're not listening. Listen properly. All right, so let's listen to it again. Maybe I misheard. I guess she felt, I don't know, she demands. Reporter grills Columbia student after she demands university to help feed protesters occupying Hamilton Hall. Let's check it out.
Should they be obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building?
Well, first of all, we're saying that they're obligated to provide food to students who pay for a meal plan here.
But you mentioned that there was a request that food and water be brought in, unless I misunderstood.
To allow it to be brought in. I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you? If the answer is no, then you should allow basic, I mean, it's crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
But they did put themselves in that very deliberately.
But she said, don't they have water bottles?
They put themselves in that.
But this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
But they did put themselves in that very deliberately in that situation and in that position. So it seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries, we want to take over this building. Now would you please bring us food and water?
Yo. Nobody's asking them to bring anything. We're asking them to not violently stop us from bringing in basic humanitarian aid.
So she's claiming that they're not letting them bring in stuff. That's what she's claiming. And somebody pointed this out in the second stream earlier, the crop top guy.
They're stopping the delivery of food.
We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it
but
violently.
They haven't stopped it yet.
I don't.
Oh, but she says, though, I think she said they haven't. Let me see.
Stop it violently. We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it violently.
They haven't stopped it yet.
And she says they haven't stopped it yet, though. The reporter saying, well, we haven't stopped it. They haven't stopped it.
I don't know to what extent it has been attempted, but we're looking for a commitment.
A commitment, bro? Get out of here. You crazy? A commitment?
Known to our department and others for many years for their dangerous, disruptive, and at times criminal activity associated with protests for years.
For the individuals that are inside of Hamilton Hall, they will be charged with burglary in the third degree, criminal mischief, and trespassing. For the individuals that are in the encampments outside, they will be charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct.
Okay, so as you can see right there, the NYPD, they are not messing around with this. Wow. They are going in full force, and they have had enough. Obviously, the university has had enough as well, and there have been growing concern, especially over the past 24 hours, after they had broken into Hamilton Hall and barricaded themselves inside, intimidating other students as well, they say. As far as what's happening here now, it just started to rain, and we're just waiting to see what's going to be happening with Hamilton Hall, with the officers that went in there using that major piece of equipment again, which is used by ESU to access buildings in this way. But they are definitely making arrests. There are some of the demonstrators around us. They are chanting, "Shame on you, shame on you." Sometimes they start cursing. That could happen at any time. But as for right now, that's what's happening at this moment. I know Jessica Formoso, my colleague, is on the Broadway side of Columbia University, and you guys are going to be hearing from her in just a moment. But for right now, that's the very latest from here.
Okay. All right,
so
thank you. And we do actually want to go to Jessica now again on the Broadway side of campus. Jess, I understand that you actually saw the NYPD moving in. Can you talk to us about what you saw?
Natasha, that's right. We are in the middle right here between Amsterdam and Broadway on West 114th. I'm going to set the scene for you so I can confirm for you tonight that we saw protesters come out, arrested by police. The NYPD moved in, and we saw a number of protesters being removed from inside Columbia University. Now, I'm going to take you guys. Oh, we have video. Okay, so that video that you guys are watching right now, that was from earlier over on Broadway, where we were when police were moving in, police in riot gear. And as they were coming closer to campus, there were pro-Palestinian protesters cursing at police, saying that they were the KKK, shame on you. But again, we saw a lot of police coming onto campus, and around 9 o'clock, like Linda said, that's when they moved in. They couldn't move in until Columbia University administrators gave them the green light, and around that time, that's when Columbia said, come in, you're allowed to come onto our property. And just minutes ago, we witnessed protesters, student protesters being walked out in zip ties by NYPD officers. There were a number of buses out here waiting for those protesters. One of them filled with protesters went down 114 onto Amsterdam. You're going to take a look. Jimmy's going to show you right there. There's a number of protesters, a number of police. Barricades are up, and they were chanting.
Send them the Fire Festival package for a lunch. You guys, who knows about that? I'm gonna pull up the picture. Send them the Fire Festival lunch package, the elite package for the paying the highest price. Let me see if I can find that picture.
At every single door, no students are allowed out or in of their dorms. We were told that they were told by university officials to shelter in place. And you're taking a live look. Students looking outside their windows at times chanting, cursing out the NYPD. And now you're seeing police officers moving towards Amsterdam.
That Fire Festival shit. You know about that?
I don't know. We're just this is all unfolding as we're speaking. So unclear why they're heading that way. We do see up 114 going towards Broadway. And Jimmy, we can just point out this direction. There's still two NYPD buses waiting there. They are not filled with students just yet. So it's unclear if more students are still inside the building and they're waiting to remove them. We have to say, though, that the NYPD has been very courteous to the media, allowing us to get as close as we are to see those arrests being made and those students being walked out. And now we're zooming into Amsterdam right now. As you can see, the police are walking towards Amsterdam, and you can hear the protesters that are out there yelling at police.
Wow.
This is a live look of what's happening here. Earlier, though, while we were on Broadway and 116th, when we saw police getting ready to come into Columbia University, we were able to speak to a faculty member. He didn't want to give us his name. He told us he was from the medical school at Columbia University. And, he was honest. He said that he is very sad to see the situation, but did say that the administration was negotiating with these students. They even offered and said that they would invest money into Gaza to help those in need, but said, you know what, these students didn't want to negotiate. Let's hear from him a little bit more.
And this is very disruptive to all the kids that are graduating, and it's sad for them, and it's too late to reschedule and put it into Yankee Stadium or some other venue, and it's just unfair. At this point, we have to do something that will take care of the university and follow the rules, and that's it.
Gotta let them protest. Gotta let them come out and do what they do. You know? This is a free country. Can't block off us. Send riot police. Send squads out here.
Yes, they're coming out at us.
We're gonna be on camera when we come back.
Sorry. So as you can know, this is a fluid situation, and we're just trying to see here what exactly is happening over by the buses. I do see police officers over there standing outside those buses, so unclear if more students are going to be brought out. We know that a lot of officers, as you saw live when we were reporting, walked down 114th onto Amsterdam, and right there you're hearing protesters. Now, where we are, like I said, we are on West 114th between Amsterdam and Broadway. It's unclear where this entrance leads us to, the building. I want to say could possibly be by the encampment, but I'm not 100% sure at this time. I'm going to investigate that to see what this entrance leads us to. But again, I can confirm that arrests have been made and police did remove protesters. They might be students. They might not even be students from Columbia University, because as you know, the mayor and the commissioner saying earlier today that a lot of these protesters don't even come to Columbia University. They're just agitators. But I'm sure police will be updating us.
I think that has happened before, because especially people from maybe not from that school, or maybe not really even from New York or just that city. I feel like those type of people have more tendency to act out and act wild, just kind of not really comparing it, but just kind of like spring break, how we have all these crazy outer towners outside of Florida come and trash the place and violence and do all kinds of shit. There was even the case where these guys, I think it was 2 guys or 1 guy, raped a girl, all this havoc and chaos. I don't think the girl was from here either. But they come because they're from out of town. They act wild and not really thinking they're going to have repercussions and then leave. If that's what's going on. But to me, too, I'm surprised that they were negotiating the school. And to me, I would think that these people, part of the protesting, okay, they're trying to, I don't know, bring awareness, make some change, whatever. And so they at school apparently had offered to send, support or funds to Palestine, and they didn't want to negotiate. Bro, I thought that would be a plus of part of what you're trying to do.
onto campus grounds. Everybody else there were cursing them out, saying, "You are the KKK, leave, why are you in riot gear?" So yeah, definitely anti-police here tonight.
Jess, you mentioned that you saw some protesters coming out in zip ties, arrested by police. Do you know an idea of how many you saw coming out who may have been arrested? Have any of them been boarded then into any of those buses that you saw right behind you?
Yes, one bus filled with protesters left before we came on the air. That I can confirm. I'm not sure how many seats that bus has, but I can say it was possibly maybe a dozen, if not more. And arrested, I would say, from where we were, because we were able to move closer. But when it started happening, we were behind a bus that was blocking our view. So I actually saw someone walking out, and that's when I said to Jimmy Mitchell, our photographer, I said, look, they're coming out. And we zoomed in. We were able to get that footage. But I would say at least a dozen, if not more, have been arrested already at this hour.
Yeah, and Jess, also, I think, this is a really stressful time for students. I mean, May 15th is graduation. The final exams going on right now. I know that there's shelter in place, but have you had the opportunity to talk to any students out there? I mean, any idea of just kind of the sentiment from them?
So I was able to speak to students when we were on the Broadway side. Now here, NYPD has us in pens, so we can't really move around too much. But when I spoke to some students there, a lot of students, I have to say, didn't even want to talk to us. That's first of all. And when I was able to speak to a student, he just told me that, students have the right to protest and police have the right to be here, but they shouldn't be using force or going in. And hold on one second here, because here comes another bus. Jimmy, let's zoom in here. And I think there are protesters here.
Wow.
Yes, there are. Look, guys, live look at the protesters here. Some of them wearing masks. NYPD officers on that bus. You're taking a live look. This is the second bus that has left this.
Bus loads of protesters. Where do you even put them? They have space in the jail? There's one article I was looking at, too. It says, at 3 university demonstrations are being spurred on by paid activists, supposedly by India Today, who are fellows of an organization funded by George Soros. A lot of people have I've heard that talked about a lot too. There's people that argue against it or whatever, but
moment. All right, and the tensions also escalating at CCNY, where protesters have been clashing with police tonight.
Fox 5's Teresa Priolo is live in Harlem with the latest. Teresa, what do you see going on out there?
Sort of a similar situation here at CCNY that you're seeing at Columbia, although we do see NYPD buses empty now. I'm curious to see if what the situation that's unfolding at Columbia may potentially take place here in a little bit. Behind me, you see the NYPD. They are lined up as they have been for the better part of, I would say, the last 45 minutes or so. They also have barricades on trucks. They are standing by as protesters let their voices be heard here. It does feel as if we are at something of a tipping point here at CCNY. Yeah. This marks the 6th day of protests. Each day they grow bigger and bigger. Chants of free Palestine. And as we saw earlier tonight, the occasional firecracker lighting up the night sky. Now, police clashed with those inside of what's known as the Gaza Solidarity encampment, a little earlier today. There has been a large police presence here, some in riot gear. There are also some reports of pepper spray and some arrests. Scrums of protesters being hauled off by cops as well, and we have video to show you of that. Over the chanting of the crowds, you can hear the NYPD telling people to disperse or risk being arrested for disorderly conduct. Back out here live, as many might know if you're following the news on this, it was announced that CCNY is now fully remote. I was talking to some Jewish students here who don't feel comfortable going on camera, but they said that there are essentially two parts of the campus here. There's the north side where we are, and then there's the south side. The north, both campuses are shut down, but those students who live on campus are being forced to walk all the way around and attempt to get in through another entrance because so many of the entrances to the college are are shut down at this time. A lot of people going by, honking their horns, certainly, again, a lot of police presence, and a lot of chanting by protesters. If you saw in that video a little earlier, the most active part was right under that arch there, and that's where they were waving flags and also setting off firecrackers. At one point, the fire department came by, but again, things at this point do look calm. We are hoping that it stays that way. There are empty NYPD buses standing by, should that not be the case. That's the latest from Harlem tonight. Send things back to you guys in the studio.
Very well. All right, Teresa. A tipping point indeed does appear to be taking place as we speak. Now, protests have moved outside of the NYU campus. The university said it will take disciplinary action against students who refuse to leave the encampment on campus. It came after protesters defied a noon deadline yesterday from the school to get out. They've been on the Green Street walkway since Friday afternoon. The school believes that outsiders played a role in these continuing protests. So far, officials have not given any details about exactly what punishments they may be facing. All right, we want to bring in retired NYPD Detective Michael Alcazar, who spent more than 30 years with the NYPD. He now teaches at John Jay. Sir, thanks for being with us tonight. I'd like to just first get your opinion. Obviously, this is a very delicate situation, high stakes policing. What's your perspective when you see the video we just showed earlier tonight?
It's a massive undertaking by the NYPD. The response was appropriate. They have strategic response groups on the scene. They have their critical response teams, ESU. And when they made that entry into the building, they were just trying to evacuate, like the professional agitators. So I think they did a good job. It looks worse than what it was because of all the protesters screaming. But when I'm watching it, it looks like the NYPD had it in pretty good control.
Mm-hmm. So the building was taken over earlier today, I should say, Hamilton Hall. I mean, what do you make of the response time of 9:13 p.m.? Was that them waiting then for Columbia University to give them the all clear to enter campus?
I'm not sure when they received the all clear. It might have been strategic because people that work in Manhattan or go to school in Manhattan or leaving work from Manhattan were home already, and I think they did that purposefully so that there's less people in the streets, except of course the protesters.
Mm-hmm. And sir, I was wondering if you could sort of drill down on what the term outside agitators means to you in the context of these protests. Are these people being run by foreign governments? I mean, what exactly does it mean when you hear that term coming from the mouth of the mayor?
I mean, it has the potential for foreign governments,
what are you talking about?
We've seen this before in the past in New York City. There's always professional agitators. It's a big stage. They want to push their agenda. We've seen it in Zuccotti Park many years ago. So there's always people that take advantage of a situation. They're not necessarily, pro-Palestine. They might just be professionals that want to create havoc, and that's what they do. And it's good that the NYPD identified them, arrest them, and remove them from the situation so that we can protect the people that are actually protesting and, practicing their First Amendment rights.
I mean, really unbelievable sights that we saw at the top of this.
Yeah, I could never. I thank God every day I left New York a long time ago. I could not go back to this place where it's overly crowded. So many restrictions. Thank God I wasn't there during COVID. It really has gone to shit. There's like the sensible people. I mean, there's some there, but I thank God I'm out of that place. I don't want to be crowded. I don't want people to be on top of me. I don't want to be riding under subways, filthy, people on top of each other, stabbing each other, all kinds of. I don't want to deal with none of that. Trying to find parking, trying to drive. No, filthy. There's some nice places, but no freaking way. Look at this shit. No. Back then I didn't care because I was younger, but once I got older and I had a daughter and I had a family, also I started thinking differently. Hell no. You think I want that shit? This was earlier, and Musty Ball sent this to me. Florida law enforcement who are in riot gear are deploying multiple rounds of tear gas and rubber bullets on protesters at the University of South Florida. Currently, numerous Florida law enforcement officers equipped in riot gear at the University of South Florida in Tampa, I knew that shit wasn't all over, are deploying multiple rounds of tear gas and rubber bullets towards a group of pro-Palestinian protesters minutes after instructing them to leave the area and declaring an unlawful assembly. Reports indicate that dozens of students were seen using umbrellas as shields on Tampa campus as they stood in a circle with their arms locked. The majority of students ran off, but several were arrested. Take a look.
We will be utilizing chemical munitions if you choose to stay.
Oh, they're running, yeah. It's wild, man. It's crazy to see this, that this is actually happening.
You fucking nuts!
Oh, he's coughing up.
This is insane. Look at the tear gas. That is the tear gas. Oh my god, this is insane.
Oh, look at them just running away. Yeah, where are we going now, huh? Oh, that's good. Dude, I called it. You're gonna do like tear gas, smoke gas. It's tear gas.
Wow. That was hours ago, earlier.
A student group identifying as pro-Palestinian. You can see them struggling with police there. You can see their interaction there. Cops moving them along, though. We have another video if you want to cue that one up next. You will see in it a giant emergency vehicle that we've been showing to you a couple of times as the NYPD scuffles with them. And then, as you can see, that vehicle approaching Hamilton Hall to move students out. Protesters broke windows and occupied that academic building at Columbia University overnight. This after they had demanded the university divest from Israel. This after they, of course, had been camping out on the campus there in tents. A little after 9 tonight, though, the NYPD entered at the university's request. Leadership team telling Fox 5 they tried to negotiate with the student demonstrators, but it did not prevail. Earlier in the day, the university curtailed access to the campus ahead of this move by the NYPD. Now, we just got a statement from a spokesperson at Columbia University. It reads in part that the decision to reach out to the NYPD was in response to the actions of the protesters, not the cause they were championing. We have made it clear that the life of campus cannot be endlessly interrupted by protesters who violate the rules and the law.
So even
and
at some
Natasha
point,
and
these people
Steve,
have
just a little bit more
limit.
from that statement. They wanted to let people know that this had become a dangerous situation, one that they had to address immediately for the safety of the students and the faculty, some of whom were directed out when those students occupied Hamilton Hall.
It's been on full display. All right, Sharon, thank you.
It's pretty interesting. They occupied the school. I mean, yeah, anything could happen. Somebody could get sick. Somebody could have a medical emergency. There could be a fire that just happens and people are stuck trying to run out and multiple people die. All kinds of stuff.
All right, let's take another live look at Columbia. Our reporters fanned out all over Morningside Heights. We're going to have more team coverage straight ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, did they get him out of there?
Back here on Live Now from Fox. Thanks so much for being with us here. You've been relying there, watching there, our friends at Fox 5 New York. In addition to us here at Live Now, as we have told you this story tonight, shown you these incredible live images coming to us from the Upper West Side in Manhattan, near Columbia University and on the campus there. We have our live pictures still. We're going to stay with this story. Let's take that. And you see there many of these NYPD officers standing by there as they have vacated and ousted the occupiers of Hamilton Hall there on the campus. So we're going to keep this up. We're also going to go to a quick commercial break.
All right, let them go commercial break. Let's check this out. I want to see what this says here. This is
know exactly what they're protesting.
It's only 34 seconds long. NYC man speaks out against protesters. Let's see what he had to say. Seems curious.
Majority of these college students honestly know exactly what they're protesting for.
The majority of these college students are here on a government loan. They are studying something unbelievably stupid. They are basically being bilked for money. They have no idea. It's the next cool thing to do. The average person, I think, at these protests is the kid that isn't cool or good looking enough to be invited to a house party. So because they're not invited to a house party, they make their own, which is out here, which is why what happens when they summon these people with a flyer, 10,000 of them show up. These are 10,000 people with nowhere else to be.
Oh my God! He better get some bodyguards. Oh. I can find another feed in the meantime too. Well, they're on break. I'm just kind of curious to know what's going to happen. Did they get them all out? Are they going to just come out willingly? Got another feed here.
40, 50, maybe even 60 officers that made their way up a fortified, heavily armored vehicle that had a ladder. They made entry into Hamilton Hall, and they did not come out. So we don't know if they were able to engage with the protesters inside and make arrests and possibly take them out a different location. But we have not seen them come out from the side that we were on. We have not seen any of the barricades coming down from Hamilton Hall. But again, it is very difficult to get live pictures from on campus right now. What you're seeing are pictures and video that have been uploaded to social media sites or have been sent to us from Hamilton Hall and from Columbia University. But right now we're looking at another image looking down right outside of Columbia University at the very, very large contingent of NYPD officers out there. I believe we still have Jim Kavanaugh with us. Jim, if I can bring you in here, just seeing the situation as it's unfolded. We've seen many arrests. We haven't seen a lot of violent crashes, but now we are seeing the first images from inside of the campus of some of those tents being taken down. What does that tell you we've seen on campus so far?
Well, guys, the NYPD Civil Disturbance Unit here, the Strategic Response Group, and the Emergency Service Unit have a very calculated response and strategic plan they're executing. First, you saw them put the Bear vehicle, that's the larger of the armored vehicles that SWAT teams use nationwide, and that's part of NYPD's Emergency Service Unit, which is basically their SWAT unit. And they use that Bear vehicle with a hydraulic ramp to send in a phalanx of officers after they forced open a window on the second floor. And what they're trying to do is bypass the barricades of the students. So they have enough intelligence to know where barricades are inside the building. They might have planted some listening devices, and they've watched some videos that are on the web, and you can see that, where they're barricading doors, and they have some intelligence. So they were trying to bypass that, get inside, put those officers in so they can have more egress to where the students are. And as you pointed out, they arrested about 24 or so while we were on the air earlier. So they're whittling down the crowd. And then they made a perimeter around their activity there, so no one can come in and interfere with them. There are some protesters outside the police line there, and now they're taking down the little tent encampment that was on the grassy area. So they have a strategic plan. They're executing it. It sounds like they might have tossed a flashbang upstairs inside at someone. The noise flash diversionary device, they're called. So they're not going to injure you, but it just startle you. It's a loud noise and a flash. The slang is a flash bang. And the NYPD, as you reported, said they haven't deployed any gases yet.
Now, Jim, there's going to be a large part of the country that's watching this and saying, oh, this seems to be, going by the book. We haven't seen any massive clashes so far. We haven't seen any obvious signs of violence. And then there's going to be a large part of the country that sees this and is absolutely horrified by the sheer amount of police and the police force that has now made their way onto the Columbia campus. When it comes to a dynamic situation with an encampment, with a building that has been taken over by protesters, is this the playbook? Is there anything else that can be done to de-escalate, or are we seeing what NYPD set out to do going according to plan?
Right. Well, I would say like Yogi Berra said, it's not over till it's over. And I'm not sure it's over yet, because the hardcore of these anarchists, are still inside the building. So they haven't maybe reached the hardest core of the people inside yet. So it's still ongoing. But yes, an overwhelming show of force tends to damp down the resistance. If you send just a few officers, they can be mobbed and overwhelmed when a crowd feels like they can mob and overwhelm them. When a crowd feels like the force against them is an impenetrable force, but yet behaves strong and peacefully, but with strength, and proper police procedure, then that tends to damp down things. That's why you see people get arrested peacefully. They're staring in the face of a few hundred officers. And just some viewers may know and some may not, but I mean, the NYPD has 40,000 officers. The LAPD has 10,000 officers. And New York is 4 times the size of LAPD. Chicago has usually about 13,000 officers. So the NYPD dwarfs everybody in size of the number of officers they have. And they have the ability to come in with this kind of force because they do so many large events, so many big things in the city, and they can bring the troops to do it. And that helps to damp down things. The show of peaceful strength tends to damp down the violence. But we're not out of the woods yet.
No, we're not. And those numbers are on full display tonight. I do want to check in with Stephen Romo because you've had a different vantage point of the show of force going into Columbia University. Stephen, what's been the reaction from students seeing the NYPD engage on campus after being kept away for over a week?
Well, there were a few students who seemed to welcome that. Very much in the minority of what I saw.
Give us a second.
If anything, there were some others that seemed sort of to expect it or indifferent. But most vocal that I saw were people who were unhappy to see the police officers going onto campus. I've covered a lot of tense situations, a lot of unrest. I've never seen this show of force, this number of officers pour into one place at one time.
No way.
Nothing that I've
Give me a second, guys.
I'm certain that's true for many of these college students as well. It's surreal to see that on their college campus, a veritable army of the NYPD pouring in to complete this operation. It's just it's uncanny to see in this Ivy League campus, and they were experiencing that in real time. And many of them, as you'd imagine, are taking photos and videos, and they're going to.
Okay, so Nucking, thank you for the 5 super chats. Says City Hall has suggested presence of wife of a known terrorist among protesters. CBS reports. So I kind of started looking. I was looking for some articles, and I saw some stuff on Twitter. And it says, according to reports, this likely refers to Sami Irani's wife, however you say it, who was observed earlier at the Columbia University encampment. He faced charges of supporting the terrorist group Palestinian Islamic Jihad and served over 4 years in prison before being deported. And I was like, damn, is that true? Like, the wife was there protesting and shit? And so I was like, all right, well, let me look. I saw someone in the comments say, yeah, he posted his wife there a couple days ago. So I was like, all right, let me look it up as well. I pulled up the dude's Facebook. And here it is, April 26th. The same dude on Twitter with a verified profile and everything. What he said? My wife in solidarity with brave and very determined Columbia University students. They got the tent and everything out there. And viral posts. And he shows pictures of, like, you know, the protest stuff and all that. Talking about Zionist and blah, blah, blah. Very active on Twitter. And posting stuff from the protest. Wow. What the? I'm going to try to look into them some more.
That they don't want to be in a situation that they aren't seeking to be a part of, that are trying to get out of the way, either staying in their dorms right now and just watching what's happening, or who chose to leave earlier in the day or as it's unfolded.
Yeah, quite the confusing no man's land there. Stephen Romo, thank you so very much.
What in the hell
I
is
believe
going
we
on
have Tom
here?
Winter on the phone. Tom Winter has been breaking so much news on what we're seeing right now, and I believe Tom has some new and updated reporting when it comes to those rumors of tear gas being used that do not appear to have been true, and what actually went down inside of Hamilton Hall. Tom, are you with us?
Yes, Scotty. So we can address that at least from the NYPD's perspective. So the spokesperson says that they did not use tear gas.
So the whole terrorism charge thing, though, apparently, according to this one article, The Intercept, he beat the charges, supposedly. The government ultimately failed to produce any evidence on his involvement in terrorist activities. This was an article from 2015, though. So I'm from the outside looking in.
And it was used as a kind of a quick way to distract somebody. It can obviously a huge burst of light, a very loud noise, and can be momentarily disorienting. That allows police to at least have a little bit of an upper hand when they think they might be faced with a potential violent response from somebody. But having said all of that, the good news, at least according to the NYPD, is that there's been no injuries tonight. No injuries reported from students, no injuries reported from police.
Seeing a lot about the police response to the protests in Columbia, but not seeing anyone really talk about what Columbia students are protesting for. They have published their list of demands. I'm going to read them to you now. The student organization that is negotiating with the administration is called Columbia University Apartheid Divest.
Oh, God.
They're calling for Columbia to divest all of Columbia's...
Hold up. They're happy. They don't give a shit.
Standpoint of success because they feel like...
I really think... maybe that's their whole point of their cause. Maybe, whatever. Like I said this a couple of days ago. I really feel like they look at like being arrested as a badge of honor. Like they did what they came and they're kind of hailed, yeah, and it's cheered on. And so for them, this is like a badge of honor. So being arrested doesn't really do much for these people. All right, let's see about what the demands were.
His finances, including the $13.6 billion endowment, which is managed by a university-owned investment firm from companies and institutions that profit from their relationship with Israel. They identified the company specifically as BlackRock, an asset management company with ties to weapons manufacturing, Airbnb, which has offered rentals in the occupied West Bank, Caterpillar, whose bulldozers are the ones that Israel is using, and Google, which has faced protests from staffers over Project Nimbus, which provides artificial intelligence services to Israel. Demand number 2 is an academic boycott. They want the school to sever academic ties with Israeli universities, including the Global Center in Tel Aviv, the dual degree program with Tel Aviv University, and all study abroad programs, fellowships, and research collaborations with Israeli academic institutions. They're asking for amnesty for Palestinian students.
Danny, that was such a good quote for the culture with these kids that attacked that guy.
And their allies on and off campus, including through university disciplinary processes. They're demanding the defunding of public safety and for the university to disclose and sever all ties with the NYPD. Their fourth demand is for the school to release a public statement calling for an immediate permanent ceasefire in Gaza, to denounce the ongoing genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people, and call on government officials to do so as well. And their last demand is actually an amendment to a student protest that was started in 2008 about campus expansion. They are demanding no land grabs, whether in Harlem, on the ancestral lands of the Lenape, or in Palestine. Communication between the students and the administration has broken down. But calls for divestment in the past have worked. We get more into the history of successful protest at Columbia on the American Fever Dream podcast. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay. That's how they're trying to go. They got a long list of demands, but
this type of event, release the numbers of it. So the good news, I think, for anybody watching this is that at least at this point, there's no indication from officials to us that any students have been injured. There's no indication that any police or any other individuals have been injured. So that's obviously at least some good news out of this situation, which had really evolved and devolved, as you and I spoke earlier this evening, over the last 8 to 12 hours.
Yeah, Tom Winter, we appreciate your reporting. Just to quickly recap there, that breaking news that Tom is reporting is that it looks like most of Hamilton Hall has been cleared of protesters. A senior law enforcement source telling him that police are on the top floor of Hamilton Hall, clearing barricades and making some more arrests on the top floor there, but the lower floors have been cleared and those barricades are also being cleared out. We wanted to bring in another student perspective here. We've got Chris Mandel. He's a University News staff writer at University News. He's joining us now live, I believe, on campus and possibly either sheltered in place. I don't know how you want to describe it, but can you leave where you are right now?
So we're not allowed to leave right now. I'm on a dorm room on 114th Street called Ruggles Hall. We were taken here by the NYPD, and they're barricading the door right now. They said we're not allowed to leave. If we're seen outside, we risk arrest. So they're not letting us do anything besides sit here. I was in this little lobby for about 15 minutes, or for about 2 hours with 15 other students. And it turned out some residents of the dorm started coming out to let us inside so people would use the bathroom, get water and things like that.
Right, so this is a whole different type of barricade. I mean, I saw behind you, is that an officer peeking in?
So these are two officers right here, yes.
Wow.
And those officers are there to make sure no one leaves that building right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I was reporting on 114th Street and officers started yelling at everyone to get in a dorm or get arrested. So we ran down the street and we went into the first dorm we were able to get into, and we took shelter here. And shortly after getting inside, the police joined us over here, and that's where we've been ever since. So we've been here for about 2 hours at this point.
I hate to make you guess here, but how many other students do you think are in similar situations across campus, as you have hundreds of officers all throughout Columbia now?
So I would say it's at least hundreds of students. So the Columbia Daily Spectator team and other student journalists are in Pulitzer Hall and in various locations right now. So it's got to be hundreds. Every dorm room on 114th Street, the same thing happens. And there were tons of people on the street who popped inside at about that time.
And as you understand it, if you just go outside, you're not necessarily engaged in the protest or you're going about your business, you will be detained?
That's what they've told us. We had someone who said that they have a heart condition in here with us, and they asked to leave to go and get their meds because they're not in this dorm, and the police said, no, call an ambulance.
Ew.
When the officers made their way onto the campus, what did you see happen?
So they set up barricades on 114th Street, and they were walking towards the entrance next to Butler Library near Carmen Hall. And it was at that point where NYPD and SRG units started pushing everyone into dorms. So that's all I really saw from my perspective. And then in the entrance that I'm in front of right now, we were seeing students get let out in zip ties. And we saw one student who was limp. We heard reports that there was one unconscious student. So we think we saw an unconscious student being carried out.
And how far away are you from the encampment?
I'm across the street from the encampment. So the entrance that I'm right next to, the encampment would be right behind that. We can't really have a good view right now because you can't see that direction, but I could probably see it if I stepped outside.
Which you can't do because there's officers right there on the door still, right?
Yeah, if I've peeked out the door, I've asked them to leave, and they push the door closed and tell us we're going to get arrested. They've been getting a little bit more respectful as the night has gone on, and they've started telling us this is for our safety and things like that, treating us like people again, but for a while they were being very aggressive.
Does it look like most of the action has taken place already? Does it look like they've cleared out the encampment that we're seeing video of there, as well as Hamilton Hall?
That's what I've heard. I've heard a lot of the action is complete, and I've heard that there were a ton of arrests. We saw 2 full prison buses pass by us, and from other reporters that I've talked to on the ground right now, they've also said that it looks like the action has subsided. but I have no way of knowing because I'm stuck in here, and a lot of people, their phones are dying, so we're losing connection to people and stuff. So yeah.
On your phone?
I mean, this is all happening during your semester. This is happening during school, right? So as a student, with the end of the semester right around the corner, finals, graduation, what is this experience like?
It's been a really difficult time. So our last day of class was actually, I believe it was yesterday, if yesterday was Monday. And that's our last day of class, and we're supposed to have 3 days to study for finals, and then finals begin on Friday. So to have to study for finals right now with all this going on, I have friends stuck in here with me who they can't study because their laptop is at home. I had another friend whose laptop was stuck in another dorm and he wasn't able to get his stuff because the NYPD wouldn't let him go past the barricades to grab it. So we're not able to study, we're not able to do anything like that. It's making it really difficult for us. So I think we have a student right now.
So it's NYPD's fault.
Sorry. If we can pull up their picture there.
For medication.
Yeah, we'd love to listen in.
Yeah.
No, because it would be an hour. It would be an hour. I'm not sure. Okay, but will it end before like morning? Because probably, but I don't want to tell yes 100% of them. You know. Yeah, because people they don't have their meds, so it's kind of like it's an issue because they don't live here.
So this is basically a resident or another student from the dorm. She's telling the police officers that there's people who need their medication, don't have their meds, and don't live here and are trapped in here, and they're not allowed to go and get their meds. And the police are saying they don't know if it's going to be an hour, they don't know if it's going to be by tomorrow morning, they don't know when we're getting out of here.
How many people are in the building that you're in right now?
So who took refuge with me, I would say it's probably over 15 people. About 15 were in the lobby. And then there's a bunch of residents here. So I'd say the residents, there's probably 200 residents in addition to the 15 who scrambled in here to avoid getting arrested.
Now, I know that you're part of the University News, you're a staff writer with University News there. Have you been following these reports, this pushback from NYPD about outside agitators and anarchists that have co-opted the message on campus? Have you followed any of that? And if you have, I wonder what the reaction is from students on campus to that type of messaging that we're hearing from the NYPD.
So I've seen reports of that. I've talked to some of my sources. I haven't been able to confirm any of that, so I'm not sure. And being in here, I like to talk to my sources face to face to get a better indication of things. I can't meet up with anyone, so I can't find that out. But I've heard that there's agitators from probably the same NYPD press briefing, but we haven't been able to independently confirm that.
Got it. I know you're the part of the class of 2024, is that correct?
Yeah, 2024.
And so this is your graduation year, right? I mean, were you one of those that had to skip graduation because of COVID as well?
No, I'm a non-traditional student, so I'm 28. I was in the military before this, so I'm a late bloomer in that aspect. I was here during the COVID lockdown, but I wasn't affected like that, thankfully.
Got it. And we're seeing some new video coming in from the side of your screen there. I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can see officers making entry. It looks like it's it's Hamilton Hall. They're breaking in doors and they're clearing the rooms from room to room. Have you heard of any potential barricades anywhere else around campus? There's a lot of rumors that are circulating online. Hamilton Hall was the only one that we could get confirmed that people were inside and actively barricading, preventing officers from coming in. But have you heard of any other halls or any other residences where it's the opposite of your situation? People are inside not allowing officers in?
I haven't heard anything like that. Since yesterday when they took over Hamilton Hall, there were rumors that another hall was in danger, but I haven't heard that actually happened. And as far as I know, it was only Hamilton Hall.
Man, well, we can't appreciate that first person
really
reporting inside, that view of a student asking to be let out or asking for medication to be brought in, and the NYPD officers behind you with a very clear lack of answers. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
That sounds so bad.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Sure. We're joined again by NBC's National Law Enforcement and Intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, who is joining us from the phone again.
And the same thing about this medication thing, which sucks for that person if they really need their medication. I feel the same way when the roads get blocked. At least this, from what I've seen, seems like non-violent. But I think the problem is when you're occupying a building and a university, a place of education, I guess that becomes a problem. I think it's been 6 days or something like that. But that's my same exact argument when they block the roads. I think it's worse to block the roads.
Who and who's doing what, and I would expect you within the next few hours you're going to get a lot more clarity as to what's going on. It's also a bit of a function for Columbia's school safety in the school to be able to communicate to people, to be able to communicate to people as far as what's going to happen next and how this is going to go. And I think the police department will feel better once they know they've cleared Hamilton Hall, which is pretty much close to being done. And then when that encampment has been fully dismantled, which apparently is happening right now. Just a brief update so far of our initial indication from law enforcement is that we are up to 100 arrests.
6 days.
So right now it's 100 arrests.
All right. Maybe they took this place last night, but they've been protesting for like 6 days.
They're
probably right on that.
I'm sure removed. And so the belongings of the students, that'll be up to Columbia University to kind of meter out.
Does that mean I'm old?
40
what does
arrests
that mean?
in Hamilton Hall, and the first hall is is what we're hearing. And again,
younger generation.
The bulk of this reporting is from Jonathan Dean, so I've been on the phone with you, Gotti. So that's what we're hearing. You've seen some videos from inside this hall. From my account, Kaz Daughtry, he's the Deputy Commissioner of Operations for the NYPD, so he's really kind of the person who's overseeing all the commanders there on the ground, and you're seeing them inside of Hamilton Hall. So as far as what happens next, I mean, I can only imagine being a college student. You're in a dorm. You may not know everybody. You certainly don't know the place. You're away from your stuff. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens here, and I appreciate that. I think now that the NYPD has cleared out that encampment, you're looking at how it looked earlier there on the left side of your screen. I think that's probably a big step. They just didn't want people to reoccupy that after they've already been there. And I think once NYPD feels like they've established enough of a presence on campus, they'll probably go to the university and say, okay, how do you guys want to handle this from here? And we'll see where things go. So, look, a lot of moving parts left to go here, Gotti, but it looks like at this point, a lot of the heavy law enforcement work has been completed tonight. That's at least what we're being told so far.
And Tom, I am just struck at the sheer amount of officers. I heard Stephen talking about it earlier. He said he had never seen as many officers. And we were just showing a shot a couple of minutes ago of a street that does not appear to be part of the campus there. And on every stoop, on the front of every single building, there were 2 officers that appeared to be stationed there. Not sure if they're watching who comes in and who comes out of buildings, but this is all surrounding the neighborhoods on the outskirts of Columbia. So is that right? They'll have officers stationed in front of just normal residences and buildings all around Columbia to be able to stop the flow of people going into this area?
Yes, I think the plan here was to look at this and say, okay, if when we go on campus, all of a sudden there's a mass exodus of people going off campus, we don't want private residences to be impacted. We don't want students who live in a lot of those private buildings off campus. We don't want them to be somehow overrun. If we're looking for somebody, we'd like the ability to stop and question those people. So that's all part of the rollout in the way that they plan this. The second thing was to go into Hamilton Hall to be able to document, and we're seeing some of those videos, what they saw, what occurred, and to be able to put out information quickly on the arrest there. And then I think, it's part of the letter. Columbia is looking for help, not just tonight, but they want to make sure that, okay, so the NYPD comes in and this happens tonight. They don't want to be right back here again tomorrow night with another encampment and another problem and a graduation postponed. So I think they're looking at it in totality. They're looking at it in the long run, how this is going to be handled, and we'll see where we...
It might embolden people. Michelle on Twitter tagged me and said, or she commented and said, the same Columbia University professor who advocated for defunding the police is the same professor who is now pleading for law enforcement to protect him from the protesters. The Columbia University thing, that doesn't bother me too. Like, they want to protest there, I say go ahead. I don't like when they do the roads. If you want to take over the campus and shit, the same campus you're going to, whatever, make the mans go for it. I think this is a situation where there's like a saying that eventually they eat their own type of thing. And so it's coming down, even on the president. It's coming down on them. I mean, all that stuff going on in Gaza, it's really horrible too, though. I mean, those kids dying. I don't know the solution. I'm not even really qualified to speak on that. I mean, those kids dying, but at the same time, you have these, Hamas terrorist fucks, and I don't know how many times they've tried to negotiate before Hamas or whatever with the government, try to come up with a solution, and every time they turn this shit down. So I just don't know. I don't know what the answers are. So yeah, it's a crazy situation. A lot of these people out there, though, I think like the other guy said, the people are just joining a cause just to join it. They don't even fucking know. They're just joining the shit just to join it. And, it's the rite of passage, and they're in college, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is to that situation. And I honestly, Biden's been trying to tell them to, like, chill Israel. They're not going to fucking listen to this guy. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're not listening to Biden. I don't think they are. I don't know. It's a very complicated situation. And I don't know what the answers are to that. When the situation in October 7th happened, which I know that's not the beginning, there's a long ass history. I started watching some documentaries, and I saw all kinds of fucked up things from both sides. All kinds of messed up stuff. So, this whole thing of like, there's no way that there'd be a one state thing. Like, they're all just going to live together in harmony. That's just not going to, I don't think that's realistic. But this two-party thing is difficult too. I don't think you should get rid of them. I don't think you should whatever. But what do you do with these people attacking you all the time? How many negotiations have they turned down? And now you have Hamas is literally their government. So like, what do you do? Imagine some people say it's not terrorists, that they're a product of what's been going on. When you have a terrorist, maybe you can argue that organization running your government, like what are you going to do? I don't know. It's just crazy. I've seen a lot of different videos on different things. So it's a tough situation. It really is. I don't think anybody loves kids dying, But it's been getting tense. It's been getting crazy. I can't even believe it's been this long. I mean, shit, the Ukraine stuff is still going on, bro. You know what I'm saying? So now there's like these two wars that America's involved in and funding. For sure, funding and whatever. It's like, what's next? What other war we're going to fund and whatever. I don't know. Hamas. I love one guy that I like to watch a lot. This guy's dope as shit and gangster as fuck. You probably never, some people that watch politics, they might know, but this guy, the Hamas leader's son, Mossab Hassan Youssef, this guy's gangster as shit. He's like over the top though. He's just like you gotta wipe them all out. He's over the top. He's over the top. And when I say wipe them all out, I'm talking about like Hamas. But how do you do that when they're all embroiled with the regular citizens and stuff? You know, like how do you even do that? This guy actually like him. He's off the Richter scale. This guy really, I don't know, man.
Be the end all be all of information tonight.
And Tom, I mean, I agree, this Tony. Is such a massive operation. It seems as
and there's a lot of people that I don't know. I probably shouldn't go delve into politics. There's a lot of people that hate this country, don't want to be here, blah blah blah. I think they should all go. Just get the fuck out. It's like if somebody comes to my house and they're complaining about everything. Oh, I don't like your couch. I don't like these cups. Your room. I don't like your room. I don't like your computer in the living room. This is my place. You know. So if you're I just say get out. Go be over there, wherever you want to be. You know.
First to tell you that they do some things well, they do some things really well. Planning is one of those types of things. So they have a general plan for all sorts of citywide emergencies, including civil unrest at these types of schools. And so what they'll look at is and they've been in constant communication with Columbia's student safety and public safety department. So it's not as if they walked into this cold or have just been watching News Now all week long, although they definitely watch all the TV networks and all the streaming networks too. But when you look at this from a planning perspective, they say, okay, which officers are best equipped to handle Hamilton Hall? That's Emergency Services Unit. They'll get on top of that truck and climb through the ladder, and they know how to go room to room. I've been with them while they've done this to clear, in a training capacity, to be clear, to be able to handle Hamilton Hall. Okay, SRG is best equipped to handle protests. This is how many students we expect on the quad. If that's how many students we have, this is how many SRG officers we have. And then we go to patrol, who can be on those side streets that you, I think, astutely pointed out. They're even off campus. And they have a presence there. And then they have a plan as far as how to get the students that they've taken.
Yo, Rach just said, set up a booth. Two choices, Palestine or Sharia law. I mean, that's the thing, too. A lot of these people that are taking up certain causes, if they were in that country, they would not be around. They would not even exist. They would not have any of the rights that they have in this country. It's true. So that's one thing to think about.
The police department felt they were in a position that they needed to move. I got a couple of questions leading up to this inside our newsroom, Gotti, about, well, is the National Guard going to be called in? And no offense to National Guard,
Reuters, really?
But they're not close to the size in New York of the NYPD as far as the ability to have people on hand readily. The NYPD is its own army division, over 30,000 sworn, so they have the...
Oh, okay, let's check it out. Thank you.
Stop getting any attention. Right. I see you're a real journalist. You're taking notes. You're recording. Like a fucking costume. Stop giving him attention. I really got some anger issues. Real anger issues. Right.
Is it the paid protesters? Wow. Oh my God, I know. Yeah, what in a... I don't know what this is. Jonah! Oh my God. That's crazy, Rach. What's saying, pigs? I was gonna see if maybe there'd be like a debate or something going on. For a second, it seemed interesting because there was somebody claiming that the other person was a paid protester, and they were dressed kind of interestingly. I don't know. This is crazy, man. I don't know. Oh, the meatloaf was amazing. You make a good meatloaf? This shit was so good. Man, what times we're in. Been a long day, too. Oh my God. If you scroll Twitter's crazy, man. Students on a visa, really? Paid agitators, right? Where have we seen this before? Yeah, I need to get myself to bed probably in a bit. I'm glad there's no trial tomorrow. I thought you were sleeping, Nick, and not. Alright, let me see if I find any other feeds. I could keep this on the side. I guess they were saying they cleared out most of the stuff. I'm listen. You know, they want to do this, like I said at the schools, you know, go knock yourself out. Go. But I guess it got to a point where they had to do something. Let's see here. I'm too old to be doing this shit. Let's see.
Faculty and staff are now a concern. The right to protest and speak your mind is critical to our democracy, and the NYPD's job is to protect that right. We will never tolerate violence, property damage,
It wasn't violent?
disruption of emergency services.
Oh, disruption, maybe.
And as we've said, once the university asks for our help, the NYPD will be there ready to assist them. Finally, to the parents, and I say this as a father of a college student myself, be aware of where your children are. Be aware of what they're involved in. And if you don't know, reach out to them. The university and the NYPD are taking the situation seriously. You should be taking this situation seriously too. Thank you.
Okay. Let me take it back. I guess we missed it.
Good evening.
Is that new? Oh, that's from before, I think. Huh?
So as the mayor and the police commissioner have just been outlining, we've observed, and you all have as well, a really concerning escalation of activity associated with campus protests broadly, and in particular with Columbia University over the past 24 hours. And this escalation presents a real threat to public safety. So I want to make 2 points. One is to reiterate what the mayor and the police commissioner have mentioned, that these protests have been and are being influenced by external actors who are unaffiliated with universities, some of whom have been known to our department and others for many years for their dangerous, disruptive, and at times criminal activity associated with protests for years. So this is not about what's happening overseas. It's not about the last 7 months. It's about a very different commitment to
that is what's it about.
Violent protest activity as an occupation. A number of university partners have reported to us in New York and also across the country that significant portions of their protester populations are unaffiliated with their schools. They haven't got a right to be on campus, and this violates university policies. And most importantly, it presents dangers to students and to the whole university communities where it's happening. And second, we see an escalation in tactics. And when we see what we saw last night, I'm going to show you a few examples, and they exemplify some of the behavior that we're seeing in a much more holistic way. We think these tactics are a result of guidance that's being given to students from some of these external actors.
All right, so you've been listening to NYPD officials and Mayor Eric Adams earlier today. This was before all the commotion and activity.
See, NYPD,
at the request of Columbia, moved in to clear out Hamilton Hall that had been occupied by some of these student demonstrators and outside agitators. We are learning at this hour. We know we've been on this story for 2+ hours now. Hamilton Hall is now cleared. According to the Associated Press, more than 30 to 40 demonstrators have been arrested, and the hall is now empty of them. Their belongings remain. They're still kind of taking out detritus, and nonetheless, we're going to stay with this story as well. We'll see whether or not some of the NYPD officials do hold more of a formal press conference to kind of
all right, so they got that closed down. I saw this tweet, NYPD. I was trying to see if they actually said, okay, this was earlier, 21 minutes.
And
this is 5 hours ago.
Job.
The evolution of First Amendment protected speech. And,
immediately.
You know, that.
They showed some pictures, I guess, of like, I don't know, I guess what was going on.
Is something that the university has been very clear that only university students are to be allowed within the encampment. And these are just some still shots of some of the property destruction that we saw within Hamilton Hall. The windows breaking, the using furniture to prevent ingress and egress. And, you know, you can see quite obviously that this is a public safety concern for the students themselves, for the protesters themselves, for anybody else on campus. The broken windows, more barricades, human beings chained together to try to prevent entry into the buildings. So this is far beyond First Amendment protected speech and peaceful protest, which has been, a key element of some of these things over the last few months. A lot of people involved, some of them are known to us, and others are reported by university officials to be unaffiliated with campus. So that is why we are urging people to take this opportunity to leave Hamilton Hall, and just to reiterate that we are here to make things and keep things safe for us.
All right, well, tense moments. Thankfully, nobody, at least to my knowledge, nobody's dead, with the protesting. And the situation in Gaza and Ukraine continue. I don't know what the end result is going to be. I know that I think at one point Iran was triggered, started shooting rockets at Israel. I don't remember if Israel attacked back, but Iran's attack was kind of futile. I think only like 3 or something landed. I forgot what it was. So it's really tense out there. I don't know what's gonna happen, man. 2024 is definitely a wild year. Thanks, Michelle. So the Columbia University requested help. A group of individuals have entered Hamilton, hall for the purpose of occupying the building. The building was closed at the time the students entered. An individual hid in the building until after it closed and then let other individuals in. There were 2 security guards inside, were able to secure their release. Damn, you had a negotiated release? It was a hostage thing? What? I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, at least they got it under control. It's crazy, man. Anyway, tomorrow I'm mostly gonna try to just pack to move. Mary, thank you so much for the 20 on PayPal. Appreciate that. Gracias. Thank you for the super chats, guys, here too. Lady Butterfly, thank you for the 23 months. Nisa, A. Marie, thank you for the memberships. Beautiful Messy Ball, thank you for the 13 months. Beautiful says she would be beaten in another country for wearing that black and white scarf. They are for men only. I didn't know that. Crop top. Oh, the crop top, they would not. Oof. If he went to some of those other places wearing a crop top. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sure that would not be accepted over there. Lost Federals, thank you for the super chat. Tinkle Tits, thank you for the 5. Says Meatload Fun. And Annie says, how was the move? Well, I'm moving this weekend. Things got pushed back. I had to do all these documents and stuff. So now I'm scrambling to do it for the Saturday I'm moving. Friday I get the key. I'll move some small stuff. Friday I'm streaming all day pretty much. But Friday night I'll be moving the stuff. Saturday I should be in there fully. All right. So have a good night, guys. Peace. Get some rest. Take care. Bye. I just mentioned that Connor says why we're spending billions on evil that's going on. That watch you calling this out spineless. I actually mentioned that earlier about the whole. Again, I'm not no political expert, anything like that. But I just said that now we're involved in 2 wars and funding 2 wars. It's pretty wild. Zanime, thank you for the 30 months. Holy crap! I know, right? 30 months. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your membership and resubscribing. Oh, you were unsub, Rach? A lot of people tell me that. I don't know what's going on. YouTube has been having so many glitches lately from people being unsubbed. There was one time that it wasn't showing the amount of people. It kicked out a bunch of people out of my live stream. I had 10 people watching or 30 people at some point. Everybody got kicked out. Those protesters, they'll probably be out. Yeah, they'll be out in no time. I know. All right, guys, take care. Love you. Be safe. Peace. Bye. Bloop, 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 bloop. 2 wars and the border's messed up. Yeah, the border's. Good night. Peace.